on the city's grants webpage along with the slides that we're reviewing. My name is Mary Armbruster. I am the Senior Program Coordinator for Grants Management for the Community Services Division out of the City of Gaithersburg. I am the primary liaison to who you would be communicating with if you were awarded a grant opportunity. And let me just jump right into our next slide. About what we will be reviewing today on the agenda. We have today's this funding opportunity. We're going to review the parameters around that. 6 eligible service areas that the city is looking to fund during this grant cycle. This opportunity is for eligible not-for-profit 501c3 and 509a1 organizations to provide critical community service programs to city families. We had an organization in the last session who was not a 501c3 organization. They were just a regular company. This opportunity, unfortunately, is only for not-for-profit organizations right now. We're going to go over those important dates and deadlines. I'm going to walk you through the city's grants webpage, where to find that notice of funding opportunity, our questions form for if you are asking a question outside one of these information sessions, as well as where you can find the link to the application.
Yes, I just did it.
No, don't do it.
No, don't do it.
Yeah, please, okay? I do it in myself.
Oh,
Just a reminder to put yourselves on mute.
What's wrong? What's wrong?
We do not have
You can.
mute. Okay. Then we're going to go over the scoring of the grant application and points that are dedicated to each individual section. We're going to review that budget spreadsheet. A new requirement is a logic model for organizations to submit. We're going to be reviewing that. Tips on how you can submit a successful grant proposal, as well as those grant award requirements and any next steps you would need.
Mary, we lost your full screen.
No.
Your presentation's a tiny little thing at the top on my screen.
I see the full screen.
I see the full screen.
Okay.
It's just Renee.
Sorry.
It's just Renee. How about that?
I don't see anything now.
Does everybody see the full screen?
I don't see any full screen, any screen at all. Just the faces or people online.
All right, I'm going to share one more time. See what we got.
Yeah, we have it.
All right. Everybody can see we're on the agenda page now. We're moving to
Yes.
funding opportunity. Okay. So again, this funding opportunity is available for 501c3 or 509a1 organizations looking to apply for a FY27 community services grant. The maximum funding amount for this whole program is $769,195. And the city is looking to fund for 6 different service areas. There is no maximum amount that an organization can apply for, but there is a minimum award requirement that is $5,000. However, that being said, you already know that the whole pot is $769,000. So if you apply for a $700,000 grant, the odds of you being awarded $700,000 are very, very minimal. The Community Advisory Committee, as well as Community Services staff, are members of the selection committee that review, score, and rate grant proposals that are submitted, as well as the selection committee that allocates money and awards to organizations to present to mayor and city council during the budget process. These contracts are the date of the award will be from July 1st, 2026 to June 30 of 2027, with that option year of an end date of June 30, 2028. And that option year, of course, is all contingent upon adequate quality assurance reviews, timely and valid submissions of required reporting, including requested addresses that are part of the reporting requirement, as well as at the city's discretion that they see that this program is still a need within the community for funding. The 6 eligible service areas you can find on the city's NOFO, the Notice of Funding Opportunity. I can't recommend hard enough to organizations to read the entire NOFO document. It is a 22-page document. However, it is broken down with a table of contents at the beginning where you can go directly to where you need within the page. Review the whole document first, make sure you're eligible, make sure you meet those requirements, and then see which goals will be eligible for funding support. We do have the 6 here on the screen: food assistance, medical services, vocational assistance, housing preservation, services for seniors and older adults with disabilities, as well as mental health services. Each of these 6 service areas are listed on page 7 with subcategories. For example, the first service area on the screen we have is food assistance. A subcategory for food assistance could be your program that has culturally appropriate food vouchers, choice pantries or distributions, baby food or formula, or your program is a meal delivery program. These are all subsets of these main categories. However, this is all of these service areas have been based on the city's determination of these most pressing unmet needs. But you are the organizations on the ground doing the work within the community. You know what the unmet needs are.
Mama is still sleeping. I talked to her.
Again, if we could please mute if you are not muted yet, please mute. Again, if you are the ones doing the work on the ground, if you know of an unmet need that hasn't been pointed out within the notice of funding opportunity, and you can provide a well-supported case for that unmet need, by all means, please submit a proposal and the city will consider that for review and consideration. Again, these eligible service areas are going to be found on page 7 of the notice of funding opportunity. This slide is for important dates for everyone to be aware of. We have our technical information sessions the first 2 weeks of September, as well as a nonprofit training that we are providing at no cost to nonprofit organizations that will be held on September 22nd at the Gaithersburg Library from 1 to 4 p.m. We are partnering with Nonprofit Montgomery to provide a 3-hour training on how to read a notice of funding opportunity and how to answer those grant questions within the application. And then there will be an hour training on logic models, as well as an hour training on how to prepare a proposal budget. The reason we are encouraging organizations to attend this training, the reason we have even coordinated this training, is because of our previous NOFO release. Many organizations did not answer questions properly, did not submit correct budgets, did not know how to complete or do a logic model. Many may not be aware, but over the past 1.5 years, we have really overhauled our grants program, and we want to be as transparent and equitable as possible for all our organizations to receive a funding opportunity if possible. Many may know that we are moving away from collaborative grants. Currently, our community service grant program is overseen by lead organizations who applied on behalf of subcontractors. So there could be one lead organization with 2 to 5 subcontractors under one service area. We are moving away from this process. So this can create competition among organizations. So we want you to be as prepared as possible in this training should allow you to be able to do that, to submit a competitive proposal for funding. Applicant questions that are due in writing would be the week before that proposals are due on October 23rd. Again, outside of these sessions and outside of our September 22nd training, I cannot answer questions regarding the notice of funding opportunity unless they are submitted in writing. In order to ensure transparency and equity across the board for all organizations, you would submit a question in writing that I would then post on the city's webpage with the answer. So when you submit a question in writing, which I'll show you where to do, it'll be on an additional form. You would do that, and then I would post it within 24 hours on the city's webpage. FY27 proposals are due October 31st, Halloween, by 5 p.m. And then we're sending out those FY27 award notifications in spring of 2026 with the start year of July 1st, 2026. When we get to the city's grants webpage at gberg.md/grants, you'll see which funding opportunity is available. The city does have 3 grant programs: our community service grant program, our youth education and enrichment, and our EdBor parent resource center grant opportunities. These are on opposite years. So our FY27 notice of funding opportunity is available for our community service grants program. When you come to the right side of the screen, you're going to see 3 important boxes that will help you with all your needed attachments for the application, as well as a guide on what you will need when you submit your proposal. The first box is a contact for how you would get a hold of me. I have my desk number here. It's 240-805-1827. Any questions outside of the NOFO can be sent to grants@gaithersburgmd.gov. This will go straight to my inbox. I'm able to answer these questions from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And then we have our second box here right in the middle. This is our community service grant documents box. This is instructions on how you can submit applicant questions. This has your program budget instructions as well as your budget spreadsheet. We have the FY27 notice of funding opportunity document, your logic model template, as well as instructions, and then a preview of the application. There are also different links when you scroll through the web page. You see down here this one bullet application process. The notice of funding opportunity is also throughout the document. And then once you're ready to start that application process, this bottom box here will be how to apply online. This slide hasn't been updated, but after our Tuesday training, there is also a new box that is geared just for the trainings, as well as has all of these slides already available for you. So that is available online right now. When you do apply online, it's going to take you to our portal system, which is FormSite. When you go into FormSite, you'll be able to create an account and save your application as you go along. So that is very nice. If you were to hit submit before you were done, please let me know if you need to get back into it, because I think I can maneuver it on my end to reopen for you to be able to hit submit again. So just let me know if you were having technical issues with the application, but it's a pretty straightforward, easy program to be able to use. But if you are having issues, please let me know. When we do want to submit applicant questions, this is the form that you will use. That link again is available on the city's webpage. Questions are due by October 23rd at 5 p.m. If you have more than one question, please numerically label them so that I can make sure that I answer all of the questions clearly and concisely. And please make sure that they're relevant to this notice of funding opportunity. If you have questions about our working hours, this form is not the appropriate um, what way to submit that question. So please make sure it's relevant to the notice of funding opportunity. If you have more than one question, numerically label them. And again, I will do my very best to have your question answered within 24 hours of when you submit. I typically get it answered right away, and our web admin team is the best. And they usually are able to get this to get whatever request I have posted online very, very quickly. But please give us a little bit of grace and 24 hours to answer your questions. Um, and we'll do our best. Yes, Renee.
I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure. Tiffany's asking if the Teams link is the same for all the technical information sessions. It is, right?
Yes, the link is the same for all the technical information sessions. So if you wanted to come back next Tuesday or next Friday, it is the same link. And I know a lot of my friends here had registered for multiple sessions. So the day before each session, I'm just emailing everyone, just like I did today, um, reminding them of the time of the training and with the link to the teams. All right. Remember to hit submit. A little reminder. When we go into our program grant application, this is the page that you will be directed to. Again, that's save as you go. So once you hit on to the next page, you'll be able to save it as you go along after you create your account. These red asterisks are for required questions that have to be answered. You'll see these all throughout the document. And again, can't emphasize this enough. Remember to hit submit. If you do not hit submit after or before October 31st, fortunately the program locks and I cannot go in to allow submission after the deadline. Going to our scoring. The selection committee will evaluate each proposal on each section. We're going to go over a tips slide in just a few minutes, but the way that Renee and I have been explaining this to organizations is that when you open your application, pretend like the review committee has no idea what your organization does, what program you are applying for. They have no information, and you want to be as detailed as possible. Renee, just because I saw your question, why don't you go ahead? You're muted. You're muted, Renee.
Sorry about that. I think we need a little clarification. The question, is there a way to download and view all the questions in advance? Do you mean the questions that are sent to Mary that are put online, or do you mean other questions? And you can go ahead and come off mic if you want to answer.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I was just asking, since it was mentioned that we have to do each page sort of consecutively, is there a way just to see all the questions in the application at once beforehand? Thanks.
That's a great question. So when we go back to the city's grants webpage, we have our center box right here. This application preview gives you a preview of the application. So you'll be able to see all the questions in advance.
But it's also described in the NOFO. Everything's spelled out in the NOFO.
Absolutely. And if you were to go into the notice of funding opportunity, when you go to page 10, proposal sections, all of these sections are laid out in the exact same order as the application. So you have the questions in advance. So for example, your grant program narrative statement is going to be your first section of your report. Can't emphasize enough the importance of each section, regardless of how many points are awarded to each section. Even though your grant program narrative statement is only 5 points, and say your logic model and your budget are worth 20 points, each point is gold. Think of it that way. You're going to want to get as many points as you possibly can, because again, we don't necessarily know how competitive this program is going to be. We're moving away from collaboration. It's going to be individual awards. So you want as many points as possible. That also being said, there are sections within the application, for example, your work plan timeline, that are not dedicated any points at all. However, that being said, if you were to leave that section blank, that is grounds for removal because that can be considered an incomplete application. So be aware that your entire application needs to be filled in. Points are very important. So make sure that you follow the outline of the NOFO. What is the requirement? How you're answering the question, and pretend like nobody knows anything. The way that I've been also, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Mary.
The way that I've been explaining it to organizations is you have blinders on like a horse, and you can only see that question currently. You're not thinking ahead, you're not thinking behind, you're answering exactly what is written or exactly what is asked within that question. If you have a section of your application, your need statement, for example, it's worth 5 points. It's the second section of your proposal, and you don't answer what the need is, what the unmet need is, but you answer it in your, firm experience and capabilities, which is 7 sections down. I can't go back and award points for the needs statement. Whatever the section is and what it is asking, it needs to be answered within that section. Sorry, you were going to say.
And this is why we're bringing in the grants training for everyone. Like if I were going to be writing these grants, I would read the NOFO with pen and write all my notes and comments, and then I would type everything into Word or some other word processing first, and then go back and make sure every section meets the requirements of what's called out in the NOFO before I go put it into the actual application.
And we're going to get to the logic model in just a second, but this is also a fantastic tool that you can use as a roadmap for your grant proposal as well. And again, kind of going back to that program narrative statement, we had a few organizations, you have, 500 words to put into your narrative statement. We had an organization apply who only used 50 words. I think it was something like 47. This, what a reviewer needs to be able to understand, and that you need to articulate clearly and convincingly, is what the program is, why it matters, and how it will succeed. This is the roadmap through your successful application and why this program is needed within the city of Gaithersburg. So again, you're looking at the points, you see it's only worth 5 points, but that being said, think of points as gold, and you need as many as you can. Okay. When we get to this next,
the reviewer read the whole application, it doesn't matter. You need to explain information repetitively in each section. If it's asked for in each section, you need to give it in each section.
answer it. Yep. If it's asked for in that section, answer it, regardless if you feel like this is repetitive. However you want to answer, it needs to be what was asked within that section. Okay. So we go into our budget sheet. There is a new requirement of a budget narrative. The narrative should provide details and explanation for each of these proposed expenses, which we're going to get into in a second. Key personnel, as well as their required qualifications. The plan should include position titles, responsibilities, percentages of time allocated to the program, and reporting structure. If positions are vacant, the applicant should describe the recruitment process and anticipated start date. And applicants must also describe how they will ensure adequate staffing levels, quality of service, and program continuity. So that is something new. When I push into, when I push into the budget, which I have to stop sharing really fast to get into it. Can everyone see? Renee, can you respond on that?
Yes.
Okay. So we have our first tab down here at the bottom is our directions tab. And these are the budget program instructions. It includes terms and definitions that you will see throughout the document, as well as the grant requirements and compliance and documentation. This compliance and documentation is new to the program. Grantees, when I come in for a site visit, you will be able to provide that documentation of expenditures that have been submitted in your quarterly report invoicing. And any deviation from the already pre-approved budget expenditures, if you were to deviate from those at all, you would have to get city permission prior to doing that. So everything that you submit within your budget from the request is what you will be putting into your invoice when you invoice to the city during quarterly reporting. When we get into our budget spreadsheet, we have our organization name and program title and date at the top, as well as your total organization revenue from your current file 990. This will be a document that is required when you submit those additional documents, and then your proposed number of city clients to serve. These green boxes have already been pre-formulated for whatever information is put within the document. So that City of Gaithersburg grant request is going to sum up all of those expenses down here into this box, which will repopulate up here. And that will calculate your unit cost per client from your proposed number to serve and your City of Gaithersburg grant request. And that will pre-populate a percentage of the budget from city funds. I'm going to go over in just a minute those different budget requirements that we can see from your budget spreadsheet. From this section here, all that is in blue is your organization's budget and what you have budgeted without the city's request. If you're looking to supplement 20% of a personnel's salary for this program, you would only do 20%, or you would only do 80% of their salary here and the remaining 20% of their salary here. This total would be 100% of their salary. So if you have a personnel who makes $80,000 a year, you're putting in 80% of their salary here and the remaining 20% for each, which I think you do not need to put the personnel's name, but you go use their title if you wanted to. And then down here would be the benefit. Get into a minute. Actually, say it. The fringe, you can only use 15% of the allocated funding for indirect costs. 85% of your award needs to go towards program services. Funding cap, the funds awarded by the city cannot make up 50% or more, or 50% or less, 50% or more of an organization's budget. So this category right here, percentage of budget from city funds, cannot be 50% or more. Again, administrative and indirect costs, no more than 15% of the grant funds may be allocated towards non-programmatic indirect or administrative costs.
You have a question, Mary?
Yes.
Is the budget without the city request just for the city of Gaithersburg program? Or is it for the total agency wide for that particular position?
We're looking for the budget for the program. I don't need your entire organization's budget. I'll see that up here in your 990. I'll see the total organization's revenue, right? This is just for the program that you are applying for. If you're applying for, your food program, I want to know what you need or what you use to provide services for that food program. Your personnel, how much you're willing to cover from other funds, from other funders, from your own organization's budget, and then what you are requesting from the city of Gaithersburg for that program. And then this will calculate the total for their
Another
personnel.
question, number of clients served, is that within the city or total clients served by the program?
This is going to be who you're served within the city. So City of Gaithersburg grant money, just so everyone is aware, is city taxpayer money. This money has to be used on City of Gaithersburg clients. We cannot fund county clients. We cannot fund people who are outside the incorporated city limits of Gaithersburg. How you can tell, the easiest way to tell if a client is a City of Gaithersburg resident is to ask them the color of their recycling bin. If it is green, they are city. If it is blue, they're a county resident. Another way to tell if a resident is a city client is to check their address. And the easiest way to do that would be to go to page 6 on the notice of funding opportunity. You'll see that scope of service area section. The first section is on City of Gaithersburg residents, and there is a link to the Gaithersburg address lookup tool. That is another easy way. But when you are requesting your number of clients to serve, you're requesting to serve City of Gaithersburg residents.
And by city of Gaithersburg, we don't mean Gaithersburg is on the mailing address. We mean it's the incorporated city of Gaithersburg, which is why addresses have to be checked.
Exactly. There's a lot of Montgomery Village that has Gaithersburg on their mailing address, but they're outside the incorporated city limits of Gaithersburg. Again, the easiest way to tell is the color of their recycling bin. If it is green, they are city. If it is blue, they are county.
We have another question from Diane about formulas within the budgets. Those were corrected within.
Hi, yes, I'm finding, I just put in some simple numbers to see what would happen. And if I put in, for example, $50 on that first row for personnel, without the city request and $50 with the city request, that should be 50-50, right? And yet, I think.
Wait, sorry. Are you putting it, so the blue is your own program without city and green is the city, like what you're requesting money for. So if you put 50 under the blue and 50 under the green, that should equal 100.
Correct. And so the request from the city is only the column F, not column H.
Correct.
H is the total.
Right. And so when you look at row 6, it's picking up H.
Oh, you are right.
Okay.
It's because, yes, you're right. All right. I'll make that adjustment. Thank you for catching that, Diane.
And if you look at the percentage, let's see.
Yeah, that's not calculating either.
Row 8 is picking up on your total organization's revenue, not the percentage of the project that's from the city versus the total for the project. So it should be, at this point, it should be 50%.
Should be
of the budget
50%, yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's going against the wrong row.
And on that note, any observations like that you make while you're trying to work on this, you can submit it on the website. You could also call or email Mary directly because we want to make sure it's right for everybody.
Yeah,
Super
you want to get
important,
the
yeah.
right one up. You want to get the right one up there for everybody. To be
Exactly.
using.
Exactly.
So,
Thank you, Diane. We
if
did
you
like
want some help looking it over, just let me know.
Absolutely. We did like a big overhaul of our budget spreadsheet with our community advisory committee chair. So any errors that we see, please point them out and let us know. We're still getting out the kinks, but thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, Diane. Okay. Again, blue is for your own budget and green is for the city. When we come down here for your type of program expense, you're going to list it out and you're going to name the category. If you have no other funding for this line item, you're going to leave this blank or you'll put 0. And then we will know that this is your full ask for that line item. Down here to this section, your total indirect costs, again, your maximum is 15%. And so if you were to, you forgot it's 15% and you put in 16%, you'll see this document verification check. Oh, my indirect cost needs to be 15% or less and I failed. I'm going to come back up to my total indirect and I'm going to see that I am 1% over. Sorry, if you are not on mute, if you could please mute. Get a lot of feedback. Any more questions about the budget? Again, we're gonna get these formulas fixed, and I will repost on the city's webpage and
Mary, we heard you'll post on the city's webpage and then I didn't hear anything.
oh, we'll post on the city's webpage and I'll email everyone who is here and who has been registered to share the updated budget spreadsheet.
We have a question from Joseph. Go ahead, Joseph. You're on mute if you're trying to talk.
You, Joe?
Can't hear you, Joe. If you want to text, you could do that.
All right, for now, I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go back to my previous. Oh,
Mary, we have another question. I'm a bit confused about the blue and the green columns.
Can
okay,
I explain?
Sure.
So if we're requesting money from the city, that would go in toward our project, that would go in the green columns, right?
Yes. Yes.
Why do you need the blue? If it's money that we're going to put toward the project, why would you need that? As the way in which you have asked for that information is salary and fringe project salary. Is that what you're asking for?
Yes. So the personnel who are in charge of this project, we want to know their salary. Yes. So this is what you are able to fund through other funding sources, through grants, through whatever else. But this is the request from the city for whatever percentage you're looking for their salary. If it is 100% of their salary, then you would put 100% here.
Are you going to talk about the budget narrative as well, Mary?
What's that?
Are you going to talk about the budget narrative as well?
I did.
Okay. So, I mean, we're just trying to get a picture for the review committee. We don't need like all the details of everything, but and as we do this more, maybe, hopefully we'll be able to refine this better. But in some of the applications last time, we had, for example, a staff person that maybe was working 15 hours And for us, we were trying to determine for our own educational purposes, was this person being paid 15 hours just for this project and they were picking up more hours somewhere else? Or is this just a 15-hour position? So that's part of why we also have the budget narrative, so that you can give some detail for us that could help us. Like if you write in the budget here that you're going to do gift cards or food, you don't really have the space to explain what it's for, but in the budget narrative, you can explain a little bit more what the different items that you're asking for funding for would be for, used for.
Back to this one. Okay. Again, those requirements, minimum grant award of $5,000 or less will not be reviewed for consideration for funding. 85% of your grant funds need to be used on direct costs. 15% can be used for indirect costs. And we do have a funding cap from the city where we are not looking to fund organizations whose grant award will make up 50% or more of their total organizational budget. When we jump into the logic model.
We have a question. I have the question from Joe. We work with the Children's Opportunity Alliance. Okay, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to write the question into the chat. So looking at the 6 eligible service areas, we work on expanding early care and education in Montgomery County, and we know that that's connected to a lot of those service areas, but not a specific focus within those. And you had said earlier, if we applied, we just had to demonstrate with the data that it was a need and that request would still be considered. But what type of data do you need? And or is there some alternative process that we could meet with someone initially to have a conversation about, here's the data we have, is it worth us putting time and effort into this application, or is it just immediately going to be a no because we're not one of those 6 service areas?
Do you want to go ahead and answer that one, Renee?
Okay. Can you say again what the service area is? Early childhood?
Yeah, it's early childhood, yes.
So we have another grants series that we put out that's for youth and educational enrichment. So what you're explaining sounds like it probably fits over there better. This grants platform is for community services more generally. So is there a way that you can tie it with any of these areas?
So the initiative we are thinking of applying for is a community ambassador program and training families and parents and caregivers around how to navigate the early care and education system. So that's where it really doesn't fall under any of these, and it's not direct service. So I wasn't necessarily thinking it would fall under the education category either. But maybe it's better. This is a specific case. Maybe it's better for us to talk offline. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not just education, it's youth enrichment, so it could possibly fit there. Yeah, why don't you send us an email and we can have a conversation?
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
I love all the questions being asked. All right, so once we jump
We have
into
another one I missed, Mary.
Mhm.
If we currently have multiple city grants, do we submit multiple applications?
Okay, so that's a great question. So, for example, our logic model organization, our example logic model organization is an aging in place care nonprofit. They provide transportation, household maintenance, social isolation programming, and non-medical support services like food and meal delivery, hot visits or calls. They provide case management. So it's an array of programming that this one program oversees. It's under one service area. And this is what they're going to provide. So they're going to do one application for their program. However, if I am providing a service area for older adults, but I also know that vocational and job training assistance is important and is an unmet need within the city of Gaithersburg, I'm going to do a separate application for that program that my organization oversees. Does that make sense? Did I explain that correctly or not?
Yeah, that sounds, makes sense to me. But Rob, does that make sense?
So I'm thinking of what is Rob? Is that Gaithersburg Help? So Gaithersburg Help has their food program, but they also have a prescription assistance program and a transportation program. Yes, Rob, you would need to provide 3 applications for all 3 service areas. And not only is it applications for those service areas, it is budgets for each of those service areas and logic models for each of those service areas.
There's 3 complete applications.
3 complete applications. So when we get into our logic model, we have 3 tabs here at the bottom. We have our instructions tab, we have our template tab, which is what you will be using to fill in for your logic model. And then you have your example logic model. Your instructions, again, can't emphasize enough the guide that these will provide, as well as our training on September 22nd. If you haven't received an email to register for that training, please email grants@gaithersburgmd.gov and let me know, and I can get you a link to register for that session. Nonprofit Montgomery will be reviewing logic models and how to create a strong logic model for your organization's proposal. When we go into the instructions, it walks through what logic models are, what the city of Gaithersburg is expecting from your logic model. And in their simplest form, logic models should include your inputs, your activities, or what you will be doing in your programming, your outputs, outcomes, and your impact and goal. Your outputs and outcomes need to be numbers. They need to be targeted numbers with measurable methods of how you got to those outcomes and that impact. The selection committee will be looking for that unmet need or gap that is being addressed. This you can copy. You can copy straight from your application, or you can copy from your logic model to put into your application. This is not a time, your logic model is not a time to be extremely detailed, but it is brief, it is succinct, it is to the point of what the identified need and problem is, as well as your program impact. Your impact should be succinct. This is what we are doing, and this is how it is going to change people's lives. And this is what goals we would like to achieve. For example, in our example organization, 90% of the clients served will age in place at their primary residence through the contracted year. Your long-term outcomes need to be realized within the contract term. So, for example, we had a elementary school STEM program apply, and their long-term outcome was because of this program, more students will go into the STEM field for their career. That cannot be measured, that cannot be proven. It is not attainable through the contracted year. So those that can be confusing when we see long-term, but we're looking for the long-term within the fiscal year of your program. And then of course, those short and intermediate term goals, they have a numeric goal. 150 older adults received access to groceries, errands, and transportation according to the driver logs. And this is your proof. This is your how you know you are creating impact. When I come for a site visit to your organization, if you are using driver logs as proof of your impact, you will be able to provide those driver logs and I will be able to go through them. Same with access to your survey or your case management.
You have to repeat that last bit, Mary. Your voice went out.
Oh, did I cut out? Darn it. I was just saying for proof, when I come on a site visit, you will be able to provide those driver logs. You will be able to provide those post-program surveys, and you'll be able to provide the files that you use for case management for any of your clients. If I were to come and look through case management files, I would let you know beforehand that I need to see, X, Y, and Z's files, and we would go from there. Any questions about the logic model?
Just want to point out, because the slide on the points was quite a ways back. This is what the highest points in the application, right, Mary?
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is worth 20 points. Your logic model is worth 20 points. If you are unclear about the logic model, cannot emphasize enough the importance of going to the September 22nd training with Nonprofit Montgomery at the Gaithersburg Library from 1 to 4 o'clock. They will be going through a whole hour of training on how to create and how to be able to present an appropriate logic model for your program. If I were filling out an application for an FY27 community service program, I would start with my logic model. I would identify that need, my program impact, and that service area that I will be addressing. This is a great roadmap. It is clear, it is succinct, it is not heavy in detail, but a snapshot of what I will be doing, how many I intend to complete, and those short and long-term goals. This is a great place to start. And again, that training on September 22nd, we have Nonprofit Montgomery who will be able to take a deep dive into the logic model. And not only that, but
oh, go ahead, Renee, sorry.
No, go ahead, Renee. Go ahead.
This is a perfect example of having information on the same topic in more than one place, because here in the logic model, you cannot write paragraphs. You have to be succinct, but you do need to explain the detail to us. We need to know how these things are going to happen. And so you will be explaining, fleshing out this information here in the associated narrative section that's asking for more detail on this work here, how this will be done.
What we also saw a lot in previous logic models that were submitted is what you will be doing. This you should be able to name off right on the top of your head of what you do every day within your program. How you get to these is not the place that you should be putting this, that you will be providing, 8 workshop sessions to volunteers on how to, we don't need to know that. We want to know what your program does. How you get to these could be fleshed out in the narrative, but anything regarding staffing training, volunteers, this is not the place to put that. And a lot of people put prepping of what they do for their activities. We don't need prep. We want to know what is being done and how it creates impact. What is the service? This is what you are investing. You're investing in your volunteers. You're investing in your partnerships. You're investing in that technology. But that is all that can be fleshed out within the narrative of your application. We do not need to know that in your logic model. A logic model should really only be 1 page. If you're scrolling down and you're still scrolling and you're still in your logic model, come back to your logic model example and see how we did it. Again, there should not be a whole lot of narrative in your logic model. Okay.
Question, please describe differences you see between the outcomes and the impacts. That isn't an easy question. You want me to
So
answer?
these, the program impact,
The differences we see between outcomes and impacts.
differences we see between outcome and impact. So my impact is going to be able to enable older adults to safely and independently age in place by providing non-medical supportive services, fostering social connections, and reducing barriers to daily living. That is going to be my impact to the community. And my intended outcomes are going to be that X% of participants are able to do whatever through daily living, are going to be able to remain home. X% are going to feel well supported. Your impact is exactly what you have on the individual within the community. And in this case, it is being able to stay at home and live independently. That is going to be my impact.
So just for a more like exaggerated example, it could be that the impact that we're trying to make is to eradicate poverty. Well, we all know that it's not a feasible goal in the short term, right? So then instead you figure out how to minimize or improve self-sufficiency, right? So you could say to reduce poverty is an impact, and the outcome is that X number of people have increased their income through employment, or X number of people have reduced their debt, which is make them more self-sufficient, things like that. Does this help at all, Rob?
It could be the same for like a food distribution, right? Being able to measure a long-term goal through food distribution can be difficult, or through an art program. We had this conversation with an organization recently on how do I prove my long-term outcome. And this can be done through data in your narrative. You know, I have this data that says, you know, food insecurity causes X, Y, and Z. And our long-term goals are to increase the self-sufficiency of our clients, to increase the well-being of our clients. And that's how you could, that's how in a way you could argue the long-term impacts of your short-term program.
It seems like your long-term goals are just for the year of service. Is that correct? You want this measurable at the end of the year? Yes.
Yep, 100%.
Your
Has to be
impact
proven.
will be a larger scope, theoretically, but the long-term goal is aligning with that larger impact scope, but with tangible goals that can be met within the term of the contract.
We had just met with Nonprofit Montgomery, and the woman who's overseeing this training, her name is Jana Sharp. She works with Nonprofit Montgomery a lot. She said in the field that emotional data that is collected, for example, 85% of older adults feeling well supportive, is more of an outcome or an output. And how do we want to manage that? And so we will be going over that at the September 22nd training. However, that just being said, in terms of points and what the selection committee is looking for, if you have poor outputs and you have poor outcomes, that is going to impact the amount of points that you are awarded. If this makes sense, you know, connecting seniors to community resources, and those seniors have been given those successful resources and they feel well supported through a post-program survey, that can be considered a long-term goal. If they're feeling well supported, and it makes sense within your logic model and what activities you are doing and the outputs and your goals that you're hoping to achieve, this is up for consideration. Again, if it is a poor output and it's a poor outcome, that is going to affect the amount of points that you will be awarded.
And you know, there's like no perfect answer. These are all being scored by the members of the committees and the staff. And so we give points for good evidence and strong statements, and take away points for missing information or unsubstantiated statements. So for example, the one that Mary was talking about earlier, art, yeah, it's hard. That's one of those, it's hard to say tangibly within the contract goal, self-esteem or self-efficacy or educational performance was improved because of participation in art projects, directly evidenced by what you have within 1 year. However, if you were to do research and say the National Institute of Art has documented evidence that art that's participated in for this amount of hours has these kind of outcomes, and based on that, we're going to provide this service and assume that this same outcomes can be correlated. Yeah, it's not as anchored in as we're going to help 15 people write resumes and 5 of those people are going to get jobs. But not everything can be quite so tangible in that way. So I would still say lean on research and evidence to prove the outcomes that you want to say will happen.
And again, that should not be explained in your logic model. That needs to be explained in the narrative of your application. You're only putting your goal or your long-term and short and intermediate term outcomes in your logic model, but that data needs to be in that proof and that evidence needs to be within the meat of your application and within the correct and appropriate section of your application. Okay, just because I'm looking at time and I want to make sure we have enough, I'm going to stop share for the logic model right now. I'll go back to my slides. And Renee, please let me know if my volume keeps going in and out. Oh no. Can everyone see the? Okay. I'm coming to this slide. Okay, so this slide is fairly important. It gives a good overview of how your application should be laid out. You've had a thorough understanding of the notice of funding opportunity. If you have questions about it, you've come to this session or you submitted your questions for online. Your logic model serves as a good roadmap. It's a good overview of your program. You've demonstrated how your activities and outcomes progress to meet the program's intended impact. And you've included your targeted numbers and your measurement methods on how you do that. You have a concise budget and a budget narrative that go hand in hand. You've accessed the form site application and you're able to upload all of those important supplemental documents. And this is a recipe for a successful program proposal that will hopefully get you a City of Gaithersburg FY27 grant award. And you also have that understanding of those grant award requirements. If you were to receive an award, you are able to submit reporting on quarterly deadlines. You're able to respond to city communication in a timely manner. If you are a medical or mental health organization, you're able to comply with that HIPAA confidentiality. You participate in an annual city evaluated site visit, and you are able to comply with quality assurance requirements and quality improvement plans if needed. When I review quality assurance requirements, each section that is submitted is given a score from 1 to 4. 4 or 3, you're doing great. You're ahead of the game with your proposed outputs and outcomes, and you are communicative. You have had a successful site visit. If you were to receive a 2 or a 1, that is unsatisfactory or poor, and that could lead to a quality improvement plan or WIP. It is not our intention ever to defund a program. Any defunding a program only impacts clients that are being served, but our main job is to also make sure that the city taxpayer funds are being utilized appropriately. And that is our That is our goal. Okay. Move on to the next slide. Again, this is our tip slide. This will be a great slide to come back to when you're looking for clarity. Assume the reader knows nothing about your program and explain everything. Be specific. We had a member of the last session who said, answer the mail. When you get the mail, answer it. And so that's what we're asking for. When you're in your designated section, answer the mail, answer what is written, or answer what is asked. Answer all possible questions. There were, there's different sections that ask multiple questions. Make sure you answer all of them as possible. And make sure that you answer hypothetical questions that you can anticipate what a reader might want to know. Outcomes or goals that must be met within the contracted term. They must be specific, practical, verifiable, and show that impact is being realized. Again, that narrative summary is one of the most important sections that goes over everything that will be within your application. It is the roadmap of your grant application. And needs must be shown. Give detail. What is the service that is needed and why is it needed? And not only that, but convincingly and clearly tell the reviewer what the program does, why it matters, and how it will succeed.
Mary, we have a question. Can you just go back to the slide with the sections and the points?
Yes.
So Diane, these are the sections of the NOFO. And in your proposed service plan, this is the area that's where you're fleshing out the process and the work and what you have in the logic model.
So your proposed service plan will include your goals. It will include your outreach, and it will include who you use as a partner. Your proposed service plan, it should include those populations that you're going to serve, as well as those realized outcomes. Again, you will see a repetitiveness throughout the application, but it should all tie nicely together for a successful proposal. You have your logic model, which I recommend doing first before you even start the application process. Your past program experience, as well as firm experience and capabilities, can be confusing. Your past program experience is just that, specifically on the program that you are applying for funding. This is what our program does. This is the impact. This is why it is needed. This is why it has been successful. Your firm experience and capabilities is what your organization has done. This is our organization. This is how long it has been around. These, again, answer the mail, answer the question. But your past program experience is for your program that you are applying for, and your firm experience is for your organization's experience. Okay.
You'll notice there's 100 points there, and if an agency doesn't have past city performance, those 10 points will be eliminated and they will be scored out of 90 points. So there's no harm, no foul, nobody loses any points. Mary, the question was, I don't see a narrative section that relates to the logic model. Where would the correlation that you're discussing be inserted into the narrative? And it's basically throughout the document. Throughout the document, you're talking about how you're going to accomplish the things that you called out in the logic model. Basically, the logic model is a way for us to get a snapshot and then read the whole narrative to see, well, how are you putting those pieces together? Thank you, Mary.
Thank you. All right, next steps. The nonprofit Montgomery grant training. again will be on September 22nd from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Gaithersburg Library. If you have not received the link to register for this training, please email grants@gaithersburg.md or grants@gaithersburgmd.gov, excuse me. And I'll get you that link to register for the training. You'll submit those questions via survey 123 form, and I will get those posted. Sorry,
Mary,
go ahead.
just to fill out the training, maximum of 3 people per agency. It's not hybrid, it's not virtual, it's not recorded. It's only held one time and it's in person.
Yeah, I had this question yesterday. Will it be recorded? No, it will not be recorded. If you have a grant writer, your executive director, your program coordinator, they should probably be the ones attending this grant writing training. And again, September 22nd, it's a Monday, 1 to 4 p.m. at Gaithersburg Library. You have to be registered to attend. There will be some snacks that we need to account for whoever is considering attending. And it's straightforward from what we've been talking about. Consider which funding service best fits your program. Make sure you have access to the application. I've clicked on the link several times and have access to it, but you do need to create a profile if you're looking to save and continue as you go. The grant deadline would be Friday, October 31st at 5 p.m. And then we're announcing those funding opportunities in the spring. All right, if we have any more questions, we can take those now. This has my contact information on it, my desk phone, 240-805-1827. Grants@gaithersburgmd.gov. All of those questions go straight to my inbox. When you go to the city's web page, you can click into services, community services, and then that's where you can find the grants opportunities webpage, or you could just go into gburg.md/grants where you can see opportunities. But we can open the floor for questions. If anybody has any, they can ask that now. I'm gonna leave the screen up just for a little bit and then stop sharing, just so everybody has time to write this down. We were much thorough with this one, Renee.
No questions?
Questions? I'll stop sharing. Hello, Tiffany. Thank you for being here. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Gina. I hope everybody got everything that they needed. Martia, Rob, Larry, Kim, thank you for being here. If you have any further questions, again, we have our next session next Tuesday from 1 to 2:30, or the following Friday from 10 to 11:30. I hope this was a really great overview. I hope to see you all at the September 22nd training at the Gaithersburg Library from 1 to 4. I don't know if I've mentioned it. I'm going to send everybody here regardless after the registration link again for the training. And I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much, everyone. This recording will be available on the website, hopefully by tomorrow. So, we'll get that
Thank you
budget
very much.
spreadsheet updated. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Rob. Alrighty. Have a
Thanks,
good
everyone.
afternoon, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Bye. Have a good
Thank
weekend.
you.
Hey, Lynn. I can't hear you. You're